Hey, thanks for joining me. So in this video, we're really scrabbling around for things to do before our engine arrives. So we're going to look at the heater box that I like to do, and front lights, indicators, and whatever else we can do. And then I think we're really going to have to get the body off, even though there's no engine. There's a few jobs that we can do once it's off, such as having a look at the electric handbrake and just checking out fitting the fuel filter, etc. But anyway, first things first, let's look at the heater. All right then, so IVA requirements say you cannot draw air in from the engine bay, and what you'd have to do with any heater, whether a Donor VW Polo heater, I think, or one of these, you'd have to kind of block off any intakes, and then add on some sort of flange here, so that you can put a pipe into the passenger compartment or somewhere else, or wheel arch, I guess, so you can draw in clean air. So I don't think that looks terrific as it is, and I think it's quite open to the elements. You know, you've got the wires going in, and you know, it's possible corrosion, etc. So I'm not going to mess around with that. I like to build a box. So you can get the metal sheets. There's a plan on my website. You can get the metal sheets cut to size by metalsupermarkets.com or somewhere else. I use like 2mm aluminium, and then I just go down to a local welder's and they weld it up for me so that it's airtight, it's watertight, and then they just tack on this flange for me so it holds it. So that will enable me to insert this heater. Obviously I've got some holes to make, and it just slides in and we fix it in there, and then on the front of that we put on this this outlet, this plenum, I guess, that will just fit on the front, and you can easily then just cut off these holes and vent up to your demist, or perhaps you might want to warm your knees up, so you can put some pipes on there to underneath the dash. These might be a bit too large, so of course you can just slice them off. This is dead thin plastic. Put a sheet of plastic on, or get the required size. Obviously this is the same size, but just get the required size flange and just screw it in, and have a pipe coming out of it to warm your knees up. So so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to just show you where that fits now. Right, so here's my heater box, here's my hole, and just slides in here. Just nice and easy like that. I'm just going to buzz 4 holes in here. I'm going to use riv nuts because I think it's important that this is also easily replaceable, fixable, removable. So riv nuts will allow me just to bolt it in and easily just undo the couple of pipes on the back, undo 4 bolts on each side, and easily remove it in case there's an issue with the heater, rather than just sealing it all in and hoping it's going to be good. Also makes a nice little flange here just to hold some cables back that might run across the top, and all in all I think it's quite a neat solution. So I'm going to get on and drill all the holes that I require for the heater and for fixing it, and then we're just going to spray it Hammerite smooth black, and then it'll look good, and look good in the engine bay as well. Okay, so I think we're all pretty much done there. So I've got my top hole here to pass the wiring through a grommet, obviously. I've got my side holes here that I will be connecting this outlet to, and just buzzing four little screws in there. You need to watch the length of those screws in case they impact the pipes or any wiring inside. And on that, I put this nice corrugated tubing. It pushes right on, and you just extend it out into the passenger and driver bay of the car. So I've got some more of these on the inside of the car that they connect to, and it makes a really nice short little connection there, so it can draw air in from the cabin. My holes here for the pipes for these larger grommets. They're a little tight, but they're pretty good. And then I've got holes here all the way through for securing it. So the idea is, I put the wires up through the grommets here, and then I have my angles here that I put on. Need to secure these with some good Michelor Jubilee type clips, or at least a couple maybe. You don't want any leaks in here because you're not going to know about it for some time, I guess. So they go on there, and then I spray the grommets quite a lot with silicone lubricant, and these straighten out quite well. And all I do is pass these through, and you can just about get them to engage in the grommets before you lose your hand, and you continue pushing it through and pushing all this unit through. I'll just show you what it looks like. So it'll gradually push through all the way in, and then these will ping back into their right angled shape about here as they come through the grommets, and it looks really nice in the engine bay. And that is pretty much it. This will go in just a little bit more, and on the front we fix the plenum. I'll be fixing the plenum before inserting it, and it goes in flush into this case, and then I just drop some kind of 130mm bolts straight through the unit, securing it. I may tease in place with a thin screwdriver a couple of grommets, or maybe some sort of rubber washers, just to kind of suspend the unit in between the two for vibrations and things. And that is pretty much it. So what I'm going to do now is spray all this in a black hammerite, smooth black hammerite. It looks really nice in the engine bay, and then I'll be able to assemble it all and show you the finished article. Okay, so we're all sprayed up now, and I'm going to attempt to fit it all whilst we're recording. So let's get the grommets in there. Right, now the slightly trickier part, and for this I am just going to spray a bit of lubricant.
So we can hook this side the pipes in. Need to get the wires going in the right direction. I'm going to add the grommets to this later. I remember doing this slightly better way. What do I need? I need a screwdriver here. I think I need to hold these in the right position with something. Something smaller. All right. Right, now hopefully tease this into the right position. There's one. Oh, I never said it'd be easy. There we go. Right.
Alright, so there we go. Whole unit now slide into place and secured by the M6s. These are also handy because they can provide points to put a P-clip on to hold some wires close in place when you do the dash. And all we need to do now is put the rest of the bolts in, put the connector back on here, and then later on in the build we can open these up to attach some corrugated pipe to go up to the air vents. So all in all, I think quite a nice job, and we've got some extra holes here that can go to some more vents if you want to keep your knees warm, or you can make these smaller. Just cut them off, put a bit of put a flange over there, make them smaller holes like this, and vent them wherever you like. So that is the end of the heater, but we'll see more of it later on in the build. So we're moving on quite a pace here, and now we're going to be fitting the boot and bonnet gas struts. First of all, I'll show you what you get for your 300 odd pounds from AK. So this is the complete package here. So starting off, you've got 4 struts. You've got 2 for the boot, 2 for the engine bay. They all have these right angled ends, and on the other end it's going to be slightly different. These are for the bonnet, and these are for the boot. And then you've got a couple of polished out angles to fit into the boot. These are for the engine bay, and then you have some brackets here of different sizes. If I can just line those up, fat ones I believe are for the bonnet, and the thin ones are for the boot. And yeah, so it didn't come particularly well packaged. Got a lot of chipping on the paint here. I guess it's never going to be really seen, but of course another coat of hammerite just to touch that up, so that's a bit of a shame. Brackets are pretty good. So we'll just have to make sure that there seems to be a bit of more of an angle in this one than the other one. So we'll see what fits best on what side, and yeah, we'll have a look more closely at how it all fits. All right, so the front gas rams need a bit of fettling. You'll soon notice that the body sits over to one side 15mm, which is good for the other side but not for this side. So the instructions tell you to make a mark 1 inch in front of the cross member that this tank is mounted on. So I've marked that up, and the position therefore would be approximately here. Now that nylock is not screwed on to the nylock part yet, and you know, I've still got to get this gas ram fitted. As it is, yeah, sure, that might just about fit, but obviously you've got the thickness of the rubber that goes over here to take into account, so it's going to be rubbing up against that. So that's not great. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just bring this out slightly, just on a little spacer, so that I can get this just flush with the nut, be able to get this on, and sure, it might just brush the rubber in its final kind of as it comes up, and get it into that kind of position. I might even just forego the instructions ½ an inch, just bring it forward just a touch, just so I've got a little bit more space there. I'm also going to move this tank just slightly, you know, 4 or 5mm in. It came like this because it's the wrong chassis, so the guys fitted it. So I can just take this tank off. I'm just going to round out the holes just slightly and just shuffle it along about 4mm, because I still need to leave room for the air intake. So that's what I'm going to do. You need to be careful not to go too far this way, because you need to leave space for the gas ram to be able to close and miss the alternator. So I think that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll make it even on the other side, and then we're in reasonable shape. Now, fortuitously, I've got to take this body off to fit the engine. Usually you get to this stage of the instructions once everything's fitted, so you've got to try and mark up the holes here, and then drill the holes through, or mark them up on the other side in the correct position and drill them through and fit all this with everything in situ. So it might be worth considering fitting your header tanks, etc., so that you know where they are and what you've got to try and miss, and mark up where you've got to fit all this bracket when you first sort of get the kit, and just before you you take the body off ready to fit the engine, and then you can drill the holes freely when the body's off. So that might really help you. Anyhow, so I'm going to mark this up, and I'm just going to show you the other side. Now, as you can see, on the driver's side, you've got acres of space. So this is the correct position it's meant to be in. As you can see, my nylock's not done upright, and this is going to foul on the rubber and everything else. So I'm going to put a little plastic square spacer in here, and I can easily bring this out without any fear of it hitting this tank, and we can just fit the gas ram here with a load of washers or something, just to pack this out so it stays on the end. And that will only need about a sort of 4 or 5mm spacer just on the inside there. So I'm going to mark it up so when I take the body off I can drill it really easily. Also, it's worth noting that unless you pack this out, you're not going to have a flat space when you drill through here and drill through the bracket. So you do need to bring this out a little way so that you can drill through here and make a hole in here for the fixing into this gutter. So if I was to fit it right back here, I'm not going to be able to do that. This drilling through here would just go straight onto this thread. So in actual fact, you do have to pack it out quite considerably, good centimetre actually or so. So even though I didn't necessarily need all this thread showing, I need to pack it out to get it up to this sort of space. So in that case, I will actually be trimming this stud a little way back, just so that it all finishes nice and neatly when the gas ram's on there. Now the boot fixing is measured by taking 19 inches from the bracket just underneath and marking 19 inches, the mark just on the side, and then that's where you'll be glassing in your bracket just here, so the hole is in line with your 19-inch mark. This sits pretty well, but because of the curve of the boot there, you need to just put an upward kind of curve, gentle curve in this section here, just a touch, just so that it's following the line a little bit more, and just so it's following the line, so that when you go to glass it all in, it's pretty close to the body, and you can do a nice smooth glassing over the top of it. So I'll just play about with that, and then we'll get started in fitting these rear ones, and then we'll go back to the front ones. Alright, so I've got some P38, I think, mixed up here, just enough. I'm just going to smear enough on the bracket just to squidge it up against the body, and then I'll probably do a second visit. I'll do a second visit to go over the top more neatly. So we'll just a liberal amount on here, and just wrap it around a touch. Okay, that's all looking pretty nice. So I'm going to whack that in. Line it up with my hole, and I'm pretty happy with that. Let me just get in here. Okay. Line it back up again, it just moved a touch. And that is that. So I'll just let it go off a bit, just to give it a little bit more smoothing, because of course it will dry sharp otherwise, and I want it a bit smooth so I can layer on another layer just over the top, nice and smooth, to give it a bit of extra rigidity. But that's how you fit it. And we'll just show you underneath kind of what it looks like. Hopefully you can see that. So that's just first fix, just to hold it in place, nice and pushed up against the body, and then we'll put another layer over the top for a bit of extra fixing. So once your internal brackets are in place, you need to measure where you're going to be fitting these other brackets for the boot lid. So you've got to measure the length of a closed ram. They recommend about 11 inches, so I've measured up 11 inches. In actual fact, a closed ram totally tight is a smidge under 10, and we might need to use that extra space. So I've just lined this up here. Now I'll show you what I mean. So I've transferred my measurements inside. Now we're told that to use these slightly narrower brackets here. Now where you're meant to fit them, they're not going to fit very nicely on this ridge. And they're not flexible at all. They'll crack if you try and prise them apart at all. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take just a little crescent out of here, because it's mostly just this bottom point on each side that's digging in there, and I'm going to try and get this measurement as far back towards the 11 as I can. But if I'm anything after 10, then I'm pretty happy with that. So let me just take a smidge off there. I've also in the past filed away some of the thickness on the inside, so it's dead easy to do, especially if you've got a little electric rotating grinder or something. So I might just take a couple of mil off there and there, just to ease the fitting. Of course, you know, it's got to go on after paint, and you don't want to start scratching all your paint as you try and wedge these on. So I'm going to make sure they have a nice kind of loose fitting over the top. Alright, just to show you where I am. So we want this kind of fitting that we got here, so it's nice and flush on the base there. And I can get this now up to about there with my alterations. So I've just taken the edges off there so that they don't dig in so much, and I've just started to thin out on the inside. So as soon as I can get it just past the 10 and a half, and just get it down another couple of mil just by taking off a little bit of the thickness on the inside, then I think we'll be happy with that. So let's carry on. Right, so I'm all done with thinning this out, and I can now comfortably get up way past my 10, but get it to about 10.5 inches away. However, I have had another little measure, and I'm just conscious about how far the boot will open. And I think I'm going to stick to my 10-inch mark there. So I think it all measures out okay. It'll fit in between the two brackets, and I think it'll be a better opening experience. So I'm going to go for that. Now I'm using riv nuts, so I'm going to mark up my holes and then stick these riv nuts into the body there, and then screw it on down. And I quite like that approach because it allows the body shop to take these off. It's going to be fully sprayed underneath, and then they put these on, and it all looks very nice. So let's have a look. So there we go, pretty pleased with that. All fits on really nicely, all the screw holes lined up, and this is obviously how it will be installed with the gas ram. There we go. So the last thing we need to do here is to put a rivet or something through the body into this little bracket to provide some extra support. The instructions tell you to use a rivet, but I'm actually going to be using a flathead bolt like this, which I find looks much more neat, and it doesn't seem to flex and crack the paint as much once it's come back from the body shop. So I'm just going to drill a hole and sink that into there and secure it with a bolt nut. So I'm going to drill and hopefully just flush mount it. So I'll have a go at that. Okay, so you can see what I'm going for there. Let's have a closer look. First thing to note is I just did it just off centre because the gas ram's going to fit through here with a bit of a stud. So I made sure that this hole was not going to clash with that. And then we sink it in. I'm just going to touch it down a little bit more, and although it doesn't look terrifically pleasant on the camera, it looks really nice and very nearly flat into the body there. So there we go, all nicely flushed in there, and the other side. That's it. Right, so that's another few jobs out of the way. I'm not sure what the next video is going to include. We may get the body off and have a look at the rolling chassis that AK provide in a bit more detail, and the electronic handbrake, etc. I might start wiring the dash up and mounting the dials just to give us a bit of a head start when the engine finally does arrive. So I'm not quite sure, but if you can like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you again.